Everything your modern survival gear is telling you is wrong. The waterproof boot that soaks your socks from the inside, the high-protein bar that leaves you starving and shaking at altitude, the space blanket that crinkles uselessly in the wind while your core temperature drops. Men who lived for years in the Rocky Mountains at 40 below zero never had any of that, and they didn't need it. Between 1820 and 1840, roughly 3,000 mountain men ranged the highest, coldest terrain in North America. The ones who survived, Hugh Glass, Jim Bridger, Jedediah Smith, didn't survive because they were tough. They survived because they knew things, ancient things, things learned from indigenous peoples who had perfected the science of winter survival over thousands of years. And almost all of it has been forgotten until now. Picture Jim Bridger in the winter of 1825. He is 21 years old, somewhere in the Wind River range of what is now Wyoming. The temperature has not risen above -30 in a week. He has no GPS, no synthetic insulation, no waterproof membrane, no emergency ration pack. He has a flintlock rifle, a wool capote cut from a single trade blanket, moccasins stitched from brain-tan moose hide, and a rawhide bag full of pemmican. He will not build a roaring fire that burns all night. He will not eat snow to hydrate. He will not sleep in a tent. What he will do instead is survive, and then survive again. And then survive for 40 more years in those mountains, illiterate but fluent in 7 languages and possessed of a mental map of Western North America, so precise that in 1856 he drew the future route of the Northern Pacific Railroad from memory on a piece of animal skin. So, what did these men know that we have completely forgotten? Before we get into it, drop a comment below right now. Have you ever been caught out in brutal cold and had no idea what to actually do? Or maybe you've tried the modern survival advice and watched it fail in real time. Tell me your story, because what you're about to discover will fundamentally change how you think about cold, about warmth, about what your body actually needs when winter is trying to kill you. Here is the problem with modern winter survival culture. It is built on products, not principles. You walk into an outdoor retailer and you are confronted with a wall of synthetic insulation jackets rated to -40, waterproof breathable boots with 17 layers of technology, chemical hand warmers, compressed propane stoves, freeze-dried meals with 3-year shelf lives. Each of these products is solving a problem, but none of them are solving the right problem. And the reason is that modern outdoor industry was not built around keeping people alive. It was built around keeping people comfortable enough to come back and buy more. The mountain men had none of these products. They had principles. And those principles, almost every single one of them, have now been validated by modern science. Here is the part that should make you quietly furious. This knowledge was not lost because it stopped working. It was lost because it was replaced by products you had to buy, by gear that wore out and needed replacing, by a survival culture increasingly disconnected from the indigenous wisdom that made survival possible in the first place. You are not unprepared because you are careless. You are unprepared because the system sold you a very expensive imitation of real knowledge. So let's give it back. Trick 1. Pemmican. This is the foundation of everything, and if you take nothing else from this video, take this. Pemmican, from the Cree word Pemmican, was the fuel that ran the entire fur trade. The Hudson's Bay Company consumed an estimated 45 tons of it per year in the 1790s. It was so economically critical that a conflict over its control, the Pemmican War, ended in the Battle of Seven Oaks in 1816. The recipe was devastatingly simple and scientifically brilliant. Lean meat, dried until brittle, pounded to powder, mixed 1-to-1 by weight with rendered fat, tallow or bone marrow grease, with dried berries added in trade versions. The result was approximately 3,500 to 4,000 calories per pound. Compare that to the best modern energy bar you can buy. You are getting maybe 400 calories per 100 grams. Pemmican gave you more than double the energy density of almost anything modern food science has produced. And it required no refrigeration. When sealed in rawhide and packed in tallow, it kept for years. polar explorers Peary, Amundsen, and Shackleton later adopted it for exactly this reason. That is not folk wisdom. That is applied nutritional science that the fur trade discovered 2 centuries before the rest of the world caught up. Trick 2. Rabbit starvation, and why fat is survival. Mountain men and indigenous peoples understood something that killed thousands of uninformed settlers and adventurers. You can starve to death on a full stomach of lean meat. The condition is called protein poisoning. The human liver can metabolize roughly 285 to 365 grams of protein per day. Exceed that ceiling, and toxic levels of ammonia and urea accumulate in the bloodstream. Insatiable hunger follows, then diarrhea and weakness. Death can come in weeks. In 1928, explorer Vilhjalmur Stephenson demonstrated this in a controlled experiment at Bellevue Hospital. Eating lean meat only, he became severely ill within days. The moment fat was reintroduced, he recovered. The mountain men already knew. They always hunted the fat. Hump meat, back fat, bone marrow, organ meats. And this is why trick 3 matters so much. Bone marrow is approximately 90% fat. Every kill produced it. You crack the long bones with a stone hammer and eat what's inside. That single act, when lean meat is all you can catch, is the difference between life and a slow deterioration that looks like starvation but is actually poisoning. Think about where this applies to your life right now. High-protein diet culture has been telling you for 30 years that fat is the enemy. The mountain men knew the exact opposite was true. Their survival depended on it. You are not broken for craving fat in cold weather. Your body is telling you the precise truth about what it needs. Trick 4. Bear grease. If Pemmican was the mountain man's fuel, bear grease was his toolkit. Black bears accumulate enormous fat reserves before hibernation, and First Nations peoples rendered that fat into a stored form with at least 10 documented uses. Cooking oil for lean meats, firearms lubricant. Lewis and Clark used gallons of it to maintain their rifles. Leather waterproofing, lamp fuel, skin protection against windburn and frostbite, insect repellent in other seasons, bow conditioning, and medicinal salve. William Clark recorded making one from pine resin, beeswax, and bear oil. One substance, 10 functions. No factory required. Trick 5. The snow cave's hidden thermostat. Snow has an R value of approximately 1 per inch of thickness. A 12-inch snow wall provides meaningful insulation, but here is where it gets genuinely remarkable. The interior of a properly built snow cave stabilizes at or near 32 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of the outside temperature, because of the physics of phase change. When the interior warms above freezing, thus the snow begins to melt, absorbing 80 calories per gram in latent heat of fusion, acting as a natural thermostat that locks the temperature in place. At -35 outside, occupants have documented comfortable conditions inside. The Athabascan technique, mounding soft snow, waiting an hour for the crystals to sinter and harden through recrystallization, then hollowing it out, is now taught in U.S. Army Mountain Warfare School. The arched ceiling distributes structural load evenly, preventing collapse. This is not a primitive shelter. This is a thermodynamically sophisticated survival structure built from the only material available in unlimited supply. Trick 6. The debris hut that beats -19 without fire. When no snow was available, the debris hut took over. A ridgepole leaned against a forked branch. A-frame skeleton branches laid against it. Then thick layers of leaves, dried grass, sawn pine boughs piled like shingles from the bottom up, 2 to 3 feet thick. The interior stuffed with fine grass and cattail leaves, cattail specifically because air trapped inside each leaf cell provides exceptional insulation. One modern wilderness practitioner documented surviving -19 degrees Fahrenheit without fire in this exact structure in northern Wisconsin. Think about that. No matches, no synthetic sleeping bag, just dead plant material arranged with knowledge on trapping body heat in enough dead airspace to maintain a survivable microclimate. This is not luck. It is physics applied by people who had no room for error. Trick 7. The reflector firewall. A lean-to shelter facing the fire is only half the system. The other half is the reflector wall, horizontal green logs stacked between vertical stakes behind the fire, positioned to bounce radiant heat back toward the sleeping person. The fire built parallel to the body, full length, using hardwood for sustained coals. Rufus Sage described this exact setup in Rocky Mountain life in 1842. The reflector does something a fire alone cannot. It creates a radiant envelope rather than a point source, wrapping the sleeper in warmth from two directions simultaneously. This is the same principle behind modern radiant heating systems in buildings, discovered empirically by men who needed it to work the first night every night. Tricks 8 and 9. Fire starting. The Strike-A-Light kit, high-carbon steel striker, flint, and char cloth, could produce fire in 3 minutes in the hands of a skilled practitioner. The steel shaves microscopic particles that ignite on impact with oxygen, landing on char cloth that has been pyrolyzed to catch at the slightest spark. Wind helped, rather than hindered by feeding the ember. Birch bark was the tinder of choice in northern forests because it contains betylene, a water-resistant terpene compound, the same family of hydrocarbons found in pine resin, which is why birch bark ignites even when wet. Humans have used birch tar as a fire-starting and adhesive compound for over 80,000 years. Archaeological evidence of it exists on Neanderthal tools. That is the depth of this knowledge. Trick 10. The Dakota fire hole. Dig a primary chamber 12 to 16 inches deep for the fire. On the upwind side, dig a second smaller hole and connect the two at the base with a tunnel. The fire creates a pressure differential that draws fresh air through the intake tunnel directly to the flame's base. Hotter combustion, less smoke, more fuel efficiency, wind-resistant and invisible below ground level. The Dakota peoples refined this for generations on the open plains. The U.S. Army Special Forces now teach it in SERE training programs. That timeline from ancient knowledge to classified military curriculum is not coincidence. It means it works. Tricks 11 through 15 take us to clothing and vision. Brain tanning produced leather unlike anything a factory has ever replicated. The lecithin in brain tissue has one end that bonds to water and one end that bonds to fat. It penetrates waterlogged hide fibers and coats individual collagen strands, lubricating them so they slide rather than bond rigidly as the hide dries. The 6-stage process, like fleshing, dehairing, bucking in wood ash, lye, braining, stretching, and smoking over punky wood, produced leather that stayed soft after getting wet, breathed naturally, and flexed without cracking at extreme temperatures. Lewis and Clark's expedition produced 358 pairs of moccasins using this technique at Fort Clatsop in the winter of 1805. The smoking step deposited aldehydes that chemically bonded with collagen, creating genuine water resistance. Modern tanning uses chromium sulfate in industrial vats. The indigenous method used brain lipids and wood smoke. One of these methods took millennia to perfect. The other produces leather that cracks at -40. Buffalo robes taken in winter provided hollow fiber insulation centuries before synthetic polymers. The hollow structure of each individual hair traps air both inside and between fibers, precisely the same principle as modern hollow fill insulation, with fiber diameters of 17 to 22 microns, comparable to fine cashmere. The wool capote, made from a single Hudson's Bay Company blanket, added another layer of thermodynamic genius. Wool fibers can absorb up to 35% of their weight in water vapor without feeling wet. And when they do, they release measurable heat through an exothermic reaction. 1 kilogram of merino wool produces as much heat over 8 hours as an electric blanket. Wet cotton conducts heat 26 times faster than air. Wet wool conducts it far less aggressively. This is why the choice of material in extreme cold is not a preference. It is a survival decision. Traditional mucklucks from moose or caribou hide weighed under half a pound and were deliberately breathable, not waterproof. The average human foot releases approximately a quarter cup of moisture per day. In a sealed boot, that moisture saturates insulation and destroys it, the primary cause of the cold feet and frostbite that kill people. Smoked hide allows vapor to escape because the warm foot creates a pressure differential that drives moisture outward. Snow goggles carved from driftwood or bone with narrow horizontal slits reducing light transmission to 5 to 10%, provided functional UV protection 2,000 years before modern sunglasses existed. Fresh snow reflects 80 to 90% of ultraviolet radiation. Snow blindness is a corneal sunburn. The Inuit and Yupik solution was a piece of carved bone. The Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian holds dozens of examples. The American Academy of Ophthalmology cites them as effective UV protection. Think about that the next time you pay $300 for polarized glacier glasses. Here is why this knowledge was abandoned. It took time. Rendering bear fat, brain tanning a hide, building a proper snow cave. These were not fast processes. The industrial era rewarded speed above all else. Factory-produced gear could be made faster, sold to more people, and replaced when it wore out. Indigenous knowledge was integrated. Every technique reinforced every other one. Every part of an animal served a function. Every skill built on the last. Industrial products are fragile and isolated. Each one solves only the problem it was designed for, creates dependency on supply chains, and fails catastrophically when the supply chain breaks. The mountain men operated a complete, unintegrated system. We replaced it with a collection of products. And then, when the products fail, when the batteries die, when the waterproof membrane delaminates, when the freeze-dried meal is at the bottom of a river, we have nothing underneath. The old system worked. It was just too slow and too unprofitable to survive commerce. So what do you do with this? Start where you are. Option 1, the easiest entry point. Learn the principles before the skills. Understand that fat is survival fuel in cold, not something to limit. Understand that breathability matters more than waterproofing below a certain temperature threshold. Understand that moisture management, not heat generation, is the real variable in whether you live or freeze. Option 2, pick one skill and learn it with your hands. Make pemmican, you need dried meat, rendered tallow or suet, and optionally dried berries. Mix 1-to-1 by weight, press into a mold, store sealed, and that's the entire recipe. Eat it in cold weather and notice how differently your body burns when it has the fuel it was designed for. Option 3, the minimum. Next time you're going into the cold, audit your clothing for cotton. Remove all of it, replace with wool or synthetic. That single change costs very little and aligns with thousands of years of empirical data. Cotton kills, wool survives. The mountain men knew this before the word polymer was ever spoken. The men who lived through the Rocky Mountain winters of the 1820s and 1830s were not superhuman. They were not reckless daredevils who got lucky. They were people who had learned, mostly from indigenous peoples who had spent millennia in those mountains, an extraordinarily precise understanding of physics, nutrition, material science, and thermodynamics, expressed not in equations but in technique. Jim Bridger, who could not read a single word but could navigate the entire American West from memory and speak 7 languages, was not primitive. He was a master. He had access to knowledge that the modern outdoor industry has spent a century quietly burying under layers of product. The knowledge was never lost. It was traded away for convenience and profit, and it is still here waiting for anyone willing to learn it. Subscribe to this channel. Because we are just getting started. We are digging up the survival systems, the food preservation techniques, the material knowledge, and the wilderness wisdom that the modern world left behind. And tell us in the comments, what piece of forgotten knowledge do you want us to uncover next? The answer might already be waiting in a 200-year-old journal, written in grease pencil on a piece of animal skin by someone who had no reason to lie.